So good morning and welcome to Monkhouse on Mondays. I am actually quite honoured to have Joe and Lesley with me from Trafford today because these guys are working incredibly hard at the moment. So to give us some time is really, really good. Lesley, I've seen all your photos on social media. I know you're fit and healthy at the minute. I'm actually surprised you're wearing clothes instead of gym gear, but Joe, at the minute to stay fit and healthy.
Yeah, well, I suppose the last 7 years with a son of 7 years old now, he dictates my physical activity routine. So when the Fitbit says I haven't moved, we take to doing an activity.
Right.
We get out, do a bit of cycle and a bit of running.
Oh, excellent. Good. Okay. And doesn't it make a difference where you live? We have a beautiful open space in front of us to be able to run in, to be able to cycle in. I don't know about you guys, but it does make you think about those people who are living in much difficult situations and high rises, etc. So I think if one thing comes out of this, I think it is helping us all start to actually recognise the challenges other people face. That leads me to my first question for you guys, because I understand you had a bit of a different approach to how you approach lockdown when it came to memberships and things. Joe, could you explain to us what you did?
Yeah, sure. I mean, being honest, it feels like a lifetime ago now since we were having the conversations on the strategy to membership. You know, you're talking beginning of March, and at that time it was before any funding, any support was identified. We started to sort of review our strategy, didn't we, Les, in terms of how we...
Yeah, we did. I think we had to look at sort of ways of minimising sort of the possibility of a, financial crash, and ways to look at still putting the customer at the heart of what we do. So it was quite a challenging time, and we had to really think about those two things quite deeply.
I suppose, long story short, we embarked on a choice for our customers. We relaxed our terms and conditions. That was, quite a quick response. Second was freeze. But after lots of dialogue and making sure that we were putting the customer front and at the rear of every business decision, approached on an open communication strategy where we asked our customers that if they were in the situation where they could financially afford to continue paying, and the tone, the messaging in that was really important, because it wasn't to come across that it was at the detriment if somebody couldn't afford it. And that we applied that, okay, here's the options, we want to be able to support our staff as much as possible. And again, back before the announcements from government, we really were looking at how on earth are we going to be able to sustain our model in the short term. So we gave them the choice, freeze, cancel, or stay with us. And I suppose the other thing just to mention at that point is, probably for the last 18 months, we've been on a bit of a journey at new strategy, but also sort of revisiting our brand, our value proposition. And we're on a journey, so we're not there yet, but really that was about moving away from a sort of a brand of facilities and price product to one that was human. And so this sort of, if you like, even if it was not going to work, there was going to be some learnings out of it as to sort of, how powerful is this human aspect? If we could turn what we do on the inside outside, how do we get that across in the right messaging? And what I can say incredibly now is that 40% of our membership, which is right across, that's fit, that's swimming, that's gymnastics, that's golf. An incredible 40% stayed with us for the month of May. That picture may change as time goes on. Overwhelmed really by people's generosity, words to capture it.
That's absolutely fantastic. To get that sort of number is brilliant. And to add into the mix, you guys had only just opened a new building as well, which I think was open for 5 days before you had to close it. How did you cope with all of that?
Yeah, well, that was our first move brand, wasn't it? Move instant, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, talk about, work on something for, well, I mean, the brand we developed 2 years ago, but, to actually physically do the working on it for sort of 18 months, all of that work, and there's people up and down the country that have done that you open a business, the adrenaline, the hard work, Jan, Feb, March is it's busy for us anyway. And then normally when you open, that's where you get your satisfaction, both in terms for customers, the excitement, the buoyancy, but the staff as well. My people really got an incredible team, pulled everything out, particularly Jan, Feb, March of this year. And the bit when they were really, really sort of, oh God, is it all worth it? The bit where they get their satisfaction, that was sort of pulled away. But the brand was born, if albeit for 5 days. And that's now important as sort of we're in this transitionary period. There's still a lot we don't know, but how we sort of position that human brand that we've created, how do we capitalise on that going forward? But never want to open a business again and close it in 5 days later.
No, absolutely. One of my frustrations in my career, I've never opened a new building. Having said that, I wouldn't want to have to close it again in 5 days' time. It must be a real challenge. But I think what's really interesting there, Joe, is you've talked about brand, you've talked about values. And I know you work incredibly hard around that piece. And Lesley's expertise brings in sort of the digital conversation and transformation and things like that. So Lesley, have you seen around the numbers, around the insights, around how your brand and how your values has affected that digital communication?
Yeah, and I think, when you launch a new brand, you really want your customers and any new audiences to really connect with that brand. And then we closed our doors and thought, well, how can we still really truly connect with our customers? So we focus very, very heavily on digital, of course, but more so less about the website, but much more about our social interaction across all of our social channels. And we've been testing and measuring different things in relation to helping people move more every day, moving at home, from live streamed classes, and then on demand. They come on demand so they can go back and watch whenever they want to, with whoever they want to. And that's been a fantastic piece of work, and that continues. And we really are engaging with new audiences through those videos, as well as just simple things like quizzes. And we're finding the men really enjoy the quizzes more than the ladies.
We're so clever, and we need to prove it.
But the analytics tell that, and I think it's really important to keep zooming in on your analytics. Is what you are doing working, and what is working, do more of. And the Facebook analytics are absolutely amazing, and we are looking at those every single day, and we're feeding that back to the team who are working very, very smartly and hardly on putting those, putting the videos together from their homes. And that's been challenging for them as well. They've grown their confidence immensely over time. They really enjoy doing them.
Yeah. It's really interesting for me, because one of my concerns is if we look at active lives, we actually saw quite a nice little increase at the beginning of the year through that first quarter. And, we've provided all this online community for people to join, but are we actually getting a record of that participation? Will we be able to report in 3 months actually more people took part, or actually we signposted everybody to Les Mills and they just took part at Les Mills?
Yeah.
So you talk about analytics is really interesting, and it may well be, Lesley, that we'll have another conversation to talk about those analytics and what you found out, because I think that would be interesting to a lot of people. And I guess, those numbers, feeding back to the team, talking to them about their successes is really important. But how have you used this reflection to plan what happens next? So maybe on Sunday we get an announcement from Mr. Johnson about what we should be doing. What are you planning, Joe, so you're ready to come back with a bang?
Yeah, I suppose first and foremost, like you've just said, any reopening, whatever that looks like, will of course be in line with the government. And I suppose it's worth also saying that we're working closely with our colleagues in GM Active, Greater Manchester. And again, one of the things that's really positively happened during this period, is collaboration. So, UK Active leading on their framework means that actually we can pull together more effectively as a sector and on a GM. So outside of those things that we're delivering together, what else is Trafford Leisure doing? And as Lesley said, a lot of what we're learning and what we're still at really early stages as to sort of what we do reopen with and how phased is being influenced by what we are delivering and seeing now. Right. Digital, we've been on that path where it's an enabler for us, but the innovation and what's required from our customers, we're getting that feedback, that insight alongside the analytics because of what we're doing in this period of closure. Yeah. So, balanced really, really equally with the digital, and you mentioned on Les Mills, there is an absolute craving still for personalisation and connection with people on a local level. So, Les Mills, we use Les Mills and it works really well and effectively with us, but it's how do we make sure that as we continue to evolve, whether that's memberships or different products, how do we get that balance between what's local and what we can, bring to life locally and develop with our customer insight and still tap into the successful brands and partnerships that are in place as well, and that whole challenge of group exercise and class numbers, I think digital and what we're doing with Facebook Live is really giving us some insightful information to perhaps shape what that programme might look like when we start to consider reopening.
I think there's one really important piece to add in as well, is that, not everyone is on Facebook, not everyone is on the website. So we decided to call all of our over 70s, and 1,000 calls, and they'd be really appreciative of just someone calling them, asking them how they are. We've had comments, apart from my family, you're the only one that's called us, and that's been very rewarding for us and them, I think.
Yeah. It's really interesting how we forget things, isn't it? In my day, when I was a youngster, phone call was all you had. You didn't have the ability to send an email or a text. You phoned people to see how they were. And the other piece is to reinforce, Joe, what you've talked about that local person, local voice. I had an aerobics instructor who used to attract 120 people to a class every Tuesday, every Thursday. And she knew she'd got me totally by control. All she had to do was take it somewhere else, and she'd have taken everyone with her. And I think sometimes we forget that power of personality, and I'm really pleased you've reinforced that for us today, Joe. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and you're seeing their skills. Sorry, Les, go on.
I just think that some customers unfreeze their membership just through connecting with us through classes on Facebook.
Yeah.
And paying
I think you're seeing some of the people in our business. So, I was talking to Les this morning, and we've got a couple of our gymnastic instructors, and they've been working with Les as we take the sessions forward next week to do Facebook Live with some of our gymnastics. And what we're really truly seeing there is the closest people that are connected to our customers that ultimately know what the customers want and all of that is on the inside, but before COVID-19 would never have considered, and perhaps a combination of, we're all creatures of habit, whether we've got the appetite to learn new skills, you don't want to look stupid, all those things, the whole reason we've got inactivity levels like we have in the country. It's no different with digital or with using it in that way. So I think that this has been, really, really useful to sort of watch, take the experts in physical activity, whatever that is, and ask them to adapt to digital and not for somebody else to do it, to actually help shape and for them to do it. And that's no different to the other way around. There's those people that maybe are quite savvy on digital but might not actually be active. So it's going to be really interesting when we start.